The look of the day is bulldogs with antlers. Get into it. Today I'm going to start Every Heart is a Doorway by Seanan Mcguire. Starting with Every Heart is a Doorway, then going to Down Among the Sticks and Bones, then Beneath the Sugar Sky, Come Tumbling Down, In an Absent Dream, and then Across the Green Grass Fields, and then tomorrow the next installment, Where the Drowned Girls Go, is coming out, and I plan on going to go grab it after work. If you don't know, the series is by Seanan Mcguire, and it's supposed to be a very fantastical short novella series about children who go on these super grand adventures and then wind up coming back in various ways to the reality, the real world, and they can't deal with how adults treat them, and they can't deal with how mundane the real world is. So they go to this special boarding school where they learn how to cope and form a community. I've read Every Heart is a Doorway before. I read it a couple years ago, and I only thought it was okay. I don't think I quite understood what it was about, but I have started to read it now, and I have such a more appreciation for it. I have read a couple of Seanan Mcguire's other works, such as Middle Game, and that turned out to be one of my favorite books of 2020, so I have high hopes going into this vlog. Wish me luck! So I'm about halfway through Every Heart is a Doorway, and I'm really enjoying it right now. I figured I'd go outside and try to enjoy some of this Texas cozy weather. It's only like 50 degrees right now, which is perfect for me. So let's go ahead and see if I can knock this out. I just finished Every Heart is a Doorway, and I liked it so much more than the first time I read it a couple of years ago. I think there are so many conversations that went over my head reading it as a sophomore in college. There's a lot of conversations in here about childhood perspective and the way kids see the world, but more importantly, the way that adults think that kids see the world, and I think it was really invaluable. There was also so much conversation about gender and sexuality that I kind of remember, but I think I thought it was more of a novelty back then, but now it was so much more impactful. There's a trans character that you meet at the very beginning who basically talks about being sent to a fairy-like land where they're always searching for little girls to decorate and dress up, and then being a trans male having to kind of have that conversation of, oh, they don't want me here anymore. The place that has become like my home, they are like kicking me out. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I have the same opinion I had when I first read it, that the ending is very abrupt. I think these other books are like prequels and they're separate character stories. So for this one, it leaves me wanting just a little bit more, but I love the prose in this. I love the dialogue in this. It was so cool and so well written. Seanan Mcguire can write like nobody's business. Those claps were not on time. But I'm excited about getting to book 2. I start work back up tomorrow, but I think I'm gonna have a little bit of free time to try and knock it out. My goal is to try to read one of these every day. They're super short. The first one, Every Heart is a Doorway, was about 170 pages. I think this one's like 180, so I think I can do it. So hopefully I should be done with this vlog by the end of the week. Cool, wish me luck. So it's now been a couple of days, and I have now finished the first 3 books in the Wayward children's series. It took me about a week to get through Down Among the Sticks and Bones. This one's a little different than Every Heart's a Doorway. It's a prequel. It is much more gothic, and I didn't think I would like it, and then I did. Like, I was so reluctant. Like, this is the reason I didn't continue the series, is because I was afraid that because it was a prequel, I wouldn't be into it. But, like, as you can see, I have lovingly tabbed so much of this, and I am into it. In this, we follow so many more sad themes. Jack and Jill, I think, are so much more interesting characters, and they are painted so much more vividly than they were in Every Heart Is a Doorway. I also thought this is our first real experience in a place outside of just reality. We spend basically the entire book in the moors, and I thought that it would be kind of lame and hokey because it's so Frankenstein based or Dracula based, but no, it was actually interesting, especially because, and honestly, I haven't read Frankenstein, so maybe I'm just mistaken, but like, we get a lot of like the villagers' perspectives in here, and we get the perspectives of influential like young women who are just looking for, I guess I should say, we get the perspectives from influential children who are just looking for kind of guidance and love in their own unique ways. So watching Jack and Jill's each distinct way that they handle this was really interesting, and I really came to like Jack in this. And I came to like Jill a lot more than I did in their original book. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was probably better than the first book for me. Next, I read Beneath the Sugar Sky, and I read this one in about a day. I went outside, it was a lovely day, it's perfect weather for me, and I knocked it out. In Beneath the Sugar Sky, we are following back like shortly after Every Heart Is a Doorway ended, and basically we're following a couple of their characters who were introduced in the first book, and how they had to go on this magical quest and journey to fix a problem that happened in the first book. That's about all I can say without getting into spoiler territory. I liked it. I don't think nonsense worlds are for me. I think my mindset is I'm so much more of a logic person that being in a nonsense world had me asking too many questions. And they say, the characters, when they entered into the nonsense world, said, like, don't ask questions. If you introduce logic, it's gonna fall apart on you. And it did. Just a little bit. I didn't hate this book by any means. I like some of the new characters we met, and I did think the world was interesting. We are focused on the world of confection, which is all food-based, and it's all sweets and candy. So we have oceans of like rhubarb soda, and there's a lot of wildlife that are all inspired by like chocolates. So it's interesting. They said that there's sands and beaches that are graham crackers instead of actual sand and dirt, and the earth itself is like brownie and chocolate. It's vividly described, and I think it was super interesting. It painted, Seanan Mcguire's work always like paints an image in my head, which is really difficult to do for me, but I really got like a clear sense of this world. It's just the logic. If you ask too many questions, it does fall apart. There's time travel in this, which, okay. That already sends my brain into a little bit of a red alert. But I liked it. It was a 3 out of 5 star for me. I think that's all I really have to say. I'm already about a third of the way through In an Absent Dream, and I'm obsessed with this one. I'm obsessed with In an Absent Dream. This is a very logic world. We follow... It's basically a prequel so far. We follow another of the characters who was introduced in the first book. And in this world, it's the Goblin Market. So far as I know, everything is potential trade. Information is trade. Everyone's looking to cut a deal with each other. And that's kind of interesting enough as it is, but I love Lundy, which is the character in this. Lundy is such a interesting character. She's a lonely child, as most of these books are, but the way she approaches it is that, like, she can act like she's happy and no one's going to question her, and if she acts like she's happy long enough, it's going to become real. So there's like lines in here like, the year's 1962. Catherine is 6 years old, 2 years after the doorbell stopped ringing in her name. 2 years away from the door we have come to see swing open. There's a choice here, hanging like smoke in the autumn air. She can cry for the friends she doesn't have, mourn for the game she isn't playing, or she can let them go. She can be the kind of girl who doesn't need anyone else to keep her happy. The kind of girl who smiles at adults and keeps her own company. She can be content. And I think that's so... it resonates so deeply with me. And I don't know, I have such high hopes for this book. In an interesting turn of events, I have COVID, unfortunately, and it's not a fun time around here. I'm okay. We're making it. If nothing else, it's given me a ton of time to read. So, this reading vlog's really about to get expedited because I am knocking these books out pretty quickly. I read In an Absent Dream and Come Tumbling Down in the same day. This is book 4. I loved it. I think I've already come on here and talked about it. I think I can pretty much easily say this has been my favorite so far. It was so good. It was so interesting. I gave it 4 stars. I mainly wish it was longer. Like, there would be sections in here where the character in this can go into her magical world and come back multiple times, which is unusual for these magical worlds. And there'd be large time skips and sections of time where she would go in, say she's never going back home, and then there'd be a tragic event that kind of forces her or makes her want to go back home. And the event is never really explained. But if you can see my little tabs, I thought this one was the best written. I loved Lundy as a character. I can't say she has a sadder upbringing or the saddest upbringing of any of the children's, because Jack and Jill's was sad. Jack and Jill's was real dark. But in this one, she keeps talking about how her dad was a principal, her parents were good parents, but like had almost too many children, and she wasn't really being recognized or focused on. Something else that this book, and I don't think this is a spoiler because you learn it within like the first 50 pages, something I thought was so interesting in this one is apparently the ability to go to the Goblin Market is hereditary, and her dad went. And so there's also such interesting dialogue and reasoning of why the father didn't want her to go back or was being so protective of her. And this one, more than any of the other books, you kind of see both sides to it. And the ending was really sad. The ending was so tragic. I loved Lundy as a character. And I thought the Goblin Market was super interesting, where in the Goblin Market, everything is on a fair value system. If you aren't treating someone fairly, or if you don't give them fair or equal value for a product or for a service, the world kind of curses you to turn into a bird or in some other ways. And so there are interesting dialogues about how that world is so opposed and different from this reality world. And some of the tabs I put in here were about like fair and equal trade. So I really enjoyed it. This has been my favorite so far. I just hit myself in the face with the book, but it's okay. We're having a good time. And then I hit Come Tumbling Down. This has been my least favorite so far. I think it's coming from my favorite one, and then we hit Come Tumbling Down.
and I don't know if it had anywhere else to go but downhill. In this one, we are picking up where book 3 left off. This isn't a prequel story. We're focusing back on Jack and Jill again. And I just don't know if I got anything in this book. I don't really know what the purpose of this one was. Like, I liked... We go back to the moors. We go back to the moors in this one. And it was good. And it was a funnish time. It was... I liked the world of the moors. I like reading about it. But, like, we didn't really explore it. And the thing that made me so mad was that so many of the characters I came to love were so roughly written in this one. So, like, we followed Jack and Jill, and Sumi, and, Cade, and Cora, and a lot of the characters from book 3. But, in this one, like, everyone was so annoying. I don't know, Cora really grated on my last freaking nerve on this one. Because she's so quick to invalidate every single person's world. There's so many dialogue she has of like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, how can you do this? Like, oh, like electricity doesn't do that. And I'm like, broski, you literally said you were a mermaid and your scales are inside your skin. Can you please stop? And she does it throughout the entire book. I didn't love her in book 3, but I really did not like her in this one. I don't like the direction the story's taking with Eleanor West. I don't know. This one was... I liked, I guess, the closure, I got from Jack and Jill. But, like, other than that, I don't know what the takeaway was. I think so far, if I were to rank them, I would say it's In an Absent Dream has been my favorite, then Down Among the Sticks and Bones, Every Heart is a Doorway, Beneath a Sugar Sky, and then Come Tumbling Down. I still have Across the Green Grass Fields and Where the Drowned Girls Go, and then I'm done and caught up. I'm a little sad that I'm so close to the end. I really enjoyed these books. They've been really heartwarming. They've been very entertaining. I love Portal Fantasy, especially when it's done like this. And I love Sean Mcguire's writing. I'm going to try and knock out the final 2 books today, or at least one of them. We'll see how it goes. I'm also reading a couple of other things as we go. But I almost have nothing but time right now. So, wish me luck. I finished Where the Drowned Girls Go. And I liked this one. I think especially because I didn't like this one. Did I go on here and talk about this one? I think I did. I'm going to trust that I did. But especially because I didn't like Across the Green Grass Field, I really like this. And it leaves so much potential for where the series could be heading. In Where the Drowned Girls Go, we follow Cora as she goes to the Sister Academy, the White Horn Institute that is all devoted to making sure that people forget that they ever went to Magical Realm, that magic ever existed. And I will say the prose in this isn't as great as in some of her other books. It is mainly plot and action heavy. It's not to say it didn't have good moments, but it really does a wild job of connecting things, and more than any of the other books, really leaving you wondering where the series is heading. Because for the first time, it feels like there's actually an antagonist. Like, every book has, like, its own, like, plot line. But in this, it's like, oh, we've been building to something. We are going in place. We are heading somewhere. And so I'm super excited. I don't necessarily know if this ended on a cliffhanger per se, but it was definitely more of a cliffhanger than any of the other books. And it was more of a cliffhanger that I think I was ready for, but I am ready. I think this series is about to get wild. More wild than Portal Fantasy, but like wild. And I'm excited. And this really did a great job of redeeming a lot of the characters I didn't like. Like, I had so many problems with Korra, and then after this, she had her own arc. I was on board. This book just did everything I needed it to. In terms of favorites, I think In an Absent Dream is my favorite. Like, Seanan Mcguire, like, great prose writing, interesting world building. But this has been my favorite in terms of, like, plot and interest. Like, these two, I think, are my top ones. And that's it. I have now read the entire series. Listen, I am so proud of this tabbing. Like, it is color-coded, it is lovely, it's beautiful. Like, I'm taking all the pictures with all of these tabs. Like, I don't think I've ever tabbed a book, especially a series, but a book this much. I mean, Seanan Mcguire's Middle Game, I tabbed the frick out of that. But, like, this, and it's stunning. It's stunning. I love this. I love this so much. But yeah, and that's it. I am probably going to read a lot this upcoming week since I obviously still have COVID and I'm not going to be working much this upcoming week. I think my next planned thing is I'm going to try to get through a lot of the arcs I have, because I have a lot of arcs and they're all piling up. We'll see. We'll see. I got a lot of things on my docket and a lot of things planned. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. Okay, cool. See y'all later. Until next time.